Hi everybody!
Hi everyone,
I'm Garance,
I'm Tian.
and so we're going to speak about French dialects. So the history of languages is quite intimately linked with the history of wars and conquers. It shows the diversity in Europe, and diversity is like one of the symbols of the European Union. So languages are also a proof of the cultural diversity and cultural mixity that took place and still takes place in Europe. As we couldn't talk about like every dialect and every languages in Europe, we choose to focus on French dialects. So here and now we are gonna talk to you about 4 French dialects and give you a brief historical background and also cultural background.
The first language we are going to introduce is the Alsacien. As there are many languages spoken in France, Alsacien is one of the most unique languages because it has a very strong relationship with German languages. It is mainly spoken in the region of Alsace, which is a district at the border of France and Germany. At the west of Alsace, the region is bounded by mountains, which is to some extent separate Alsace and the rest of France. That could partly explain why Alsacien is much more easily to be influenced by the Germany. And the largest cities in Alsace is Strasbourg, Colmar, and Mulhouse. And a lot of cities or small towns are close to the border, like Wissembourg, Neuf-Brisach, and Strasbourg, of course. The Alsacians eat like Germans. They eat Brezel and Flammkuchen, for example. And today, although there are only 20% of local people who speak fluent Alsacien, most of addresses and city names are preserved, like Souffle-Weyersign and Schwindrasheim. The Alsatians, they speak just like Germans. When it comes to CH in a word, pronounce like R or K, like Logelbach and Isaac. When it comes to SH in a word, they speak like Osh, like Insisheim and Schwindrasheim.
So the second language we're gonna talk about is Breton. So it is spoken on the west side of France in Bretagne, which is called Brittany in English. So a funny anecdote about Breton: it is a language that it's almost impossible to calculate in this language because they name numbers on the basis of 20. So like 45 is 5 and 220. But also they have some exceptions. For example, 30 is simply 30. So it is really easy to count in this language, but it's not really easy to calculate. So that language was not made to calculate. Here we will put on the screen like pictures of traditional costumes where you can see that the female, they wear like really high hats. Talking about famous dishes, one of their most famous dessert is kunyaman. So it's a dessert that is known for being really sweet and really fat. And so I asked my Breton grandmother about it, and she told me that to do a really good kunyaman, when you put too much butter and too much sugar, then that's when you have to add even more. They also have the famous crêpe, which just looks like a simple pancake, but like thinner. Breton is a Celtic language that was brought by a Brittonic language community, so the present-day Great Britain, to the Armorica, which is present-day Brittany, and it was around the 6th century. From the 9th to the 12th century, this language was like the nobility language, and then the lower classes started to speak this language. And after the 15th century, Breton adopted French, so they were speaking more and more French. And this language is still close to the Cornish language and a little bit close to the Welsh language, which are spoken in Great Britain.
Then we are continued to Catalan. Catalan is a member of the Occitano-Romance branch of the Roman language families, along with Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, French, and Romanian. Nowadays, there are about 10 million people speaking Catalan at a native level. Most of them live in Catalonia, an autonomous community in Spain, as well as the Balearic Islands and Valencia. It is also used all over Spain. For example, the people in the department of Pyrénées-Orientales in France, like Perpignan, and in the town of Alghero in Italy speak Catalan. Meanwhile, Catalan is the most non-state language in Europe because it is not official at the national level in Spain. In fact, the central government in the capital was always trying to depress the independence of Catalonia that would be separate from Spain. Why? Let's go back to history. In 12th century, the county of Barcelona, together with other Catalan counties, formed a union with the Kingdom of Aragon, making Catalan widely spread in Spain. In 1479, the Crown of Aragon formed a union with the Crown of Castile as a result of Spanish Empire. Castilian is known as Spanish or Espanol today. Castilian began to grow in influence and Catalan began to decline in influence. At that time, as Aragon and the language Catalan seemed still to be so powerful in the new empire, from 16th century to 20th century, various laws were enacted that limited the use of Catalan in official documents, in publications, and in administrations. That could explain why today the members of Catalonia want independence. Things changed in 1975 when Catalan has been made co-official with Spanish in Catalonia, Valencia, and the Balearic Islands. When it comes to the greetings in the day, people in Catalonia usually say bon dia for good morning and bona tarda for good evening, while Spanish prefer to say buenos dias for good morning and buenas tardes for good afternoon. And the food, the Catalonia has many delicious food like
escalivada,
that is roasted veggies,
romesco,
that is toasted nuts,
crema catalana.
that is crème brûlée.
So the first language we're going to talk about is Basque. So Basque is a language that is spoken on the south of France, on the west side, and it's common between Spain and France. As an anecdote, this language has remained unmoved for 1,000 years. So you could speak with someone for like 1,000 years ago and that person would still be able to understand you. Here on the screen you have a picture of a traditional costume for men, and as you can see it's mainly white and red. As famous dishes they have the piperade, and it's like eggs cooked with tomatoes, onions and chili, so a little bit spicy. And they also have the axoa de veau, which is like beef meat instead of eggs in the same recipe as piperade, so with tomatoes, chilies and onions. And the meat has to be cooked for at least an hour so that it is tender. So this language existed even before the Indo-European languages existed, so it is really different from any other language that you could find in Europe. It has been able to be preserved, like to survive that much, because they were allies to the Roman Empire, and so at the beginning they weren't colonized. And then just before the Roman Empire was defeated, when the Goths arrived to defeat them, that's what prevented them from being colonized by the Roman at the end. That's why the language has remained unmoved that much. Of course, they borrowed some words to Indo-European languages along the years, but what makes the language unique is that the syntax has never been touched.
Talking about those languages is a form of duty of remembrance. The EU is based on the multicultural background, and those languages are in some ways the best examples for that. However, some of them are disappearing. That is a reason why they should be maintained. We hope that you learned something today and they are interesting enough. We wish you a good day. Bye.
Bye.